So we have some very important updates that we need to get to regarding Social Security, and for good reason. There is changes that are happening every single day. Millions and millions of Social Security recipients are currently waiting for answers, wondering, is Social Security going to be strengthened or is it going to be weakened? Well, we have some answers to both of those in just a second. I want you to understand what the Trump administration is currently attempting to do, but why right now billionaire Elon Musk, who's running the Department of Government Efficiency, is causing a lot more concern. So again, I'm going to break all this down in just a moment. Before I do, all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So it's crazy to think about, but yes, Social Security is falling into tough times. We know that by 2033 or 2034, Social Security's trust fund will become insolvent, meaning millions and millions of Social Security recipients will receive a 22% cut instantly. Now, I want to get to a few things first. I want to talk about one of the reports that was just made over the past week, and it has to do with this. It says the truth about Social Security and dead people. Last week, billionaire Elon Musk came out and said that there is massive fraud in Social Security. He said there's millions of people, I think 20 million people over the age of like 120 years old living here in the United States and receiving benefits. Now, to be very clear, he misread this data, but, and I said this before, that there's not 20 million people that are still living and receiving Social Security benefits. These are people that have likely passed away, but the system still shows that they are an active person. Whether they're receiving a check or something, we don't know. Because according to multiple reports, once you reach the age of 115, you are actually cut off of Social Security. You actually don't get anything. So there's a time limit there. A little bit concerning. But the reason why I'm showing you this is because all this information that's coming out, Elon Musk is trying to digest it and understand how is this going to impact the American people. At the same time, the American people are trying to figure out the same thing. Here is something that's going to impact the American people, though. We are now starting to see more and more employees are being laid off. We're seeing more layoffs this year than we have in previous years. Even during the pandemic, we have seen more layoffs in 2024 than we did during the pandemic. That's crazy. But get this. How are layoffs going to impact Social Security? Well, somebody wrote in, and this is what they had to say, that government employees are going to be the biggest factor when it comes to Social Security. Here's why. Now, many people think that government employees don't have to pay into Social Security, and that's not necessarily true. There's two different retirement buckets that they can get into, and according to reports, in 2022, 98% of federal workers were enrolled in something called FERS. This is the Federal Employees Retirement System. So 98% are employed or enrolled in the FERS system, meaning that their agency and themselves contribute, each 7.65% to Social Security. Keep in mind, as an employee, I would only pay, and not from the federal government. Let's say you work at Jimmy John's or McDonald's or Apple. Okay, you would pay 6.2% for yourself. Your employer or Apple or whoever would pay 6.2%. Combined, you pay 12.4%. Well, federal employees pay a little bit more. Here's where things get interesting. This person says, but if we continue to see mass layoffs from the federal government, then this will create an even greater deficit for Social Security's trust fund temporarily. They say this will be temporary. And I've said this before, that what we are about to see is pain. Social Security is going to have an update. And in their next update, it's likely going to show that the Social Security Trust Fund's insolvency date is speeding up. It's going to be about a year sooner. And we know this because of layoffs. We know this because inflation is starting to hurt more and more people, right? There's issues here. I want to show you this, though. There's some good news. Look at this. Apple is going to add 20,000 new U.S. jobs amid threat from Trump tariffs. What is 20,000 jobs going to do when we just lost, or there are 80,000 federal employees that just opted for a deferred resignation? Meaning, come September 30th, they will no longer have a job. Well, here's what it's going to do. Look at this for a second. It says company to begin producing Apple Intelligence servers in Texas. That's a good thing. And $500 billion is planned to be invested in the U.S. over the next 4 years. That's a pretty good number. $125 billion every single year. That's pretty good. Here's the reason why I'm showing you this. There is a lot of concern that tariffs, specifically on Canada, Mexico, China. Well, we did know that about 3 weeks ago, Canada and Mexico agreed with President Trump they're going to postpone the tariffs by 30 days. Well, that's coming up. Which means that now countries have to make a decision. The American people have to make a decision. Do we continue to buy all these products? Do we look for something different, cheaper, something made here in the United States? Well, according to reports, that's what Apple is planning. Apple is going to add 20,000 new U.S. jobs because of these Trump tariffs, or the threat of Trump tariffs. Keep in mind, one of the biggest question marks out there is if we implement tariffs, it's likely going to cause less spending because we're going to see additional inflation. If we see additional inflation, companies stop reinvesting. The American people stop buying. Then we see a little bit of an economic downturn. Okay? And then we see the countries that are sending in inventory, we're not buying that inventory like we used to. So they're going to take a hit, and eventually they will realize, you know what? We need to do more for the United States. Maybe we need to send our companies into the U.S. We need to manufacture in the United States. We need to hire new employees. We need to develop in the U.S. first. That's what Apple's deciding to do. Bring 20,000 new U.S. jobs back to the United States. That's big. Now, this is going to greatly impact Social Security. Here's why. As more employees are getting laid off because of the threat of tariffs, because of federal employees quitting or Elon Musk and President Trump trying to make the government a little bit smaller, that's going to speed up the insolvency date of Social Security, which means we need to have a plan and we need massive Social Security reform sooner rather than later. But as we see more employees get laid off, that means less money is going into Social Security's trust fund, which means we need more companies producing right here in the United States so that they avoid tariffs, that we can actually hire more employees, right? We're seeing those tax dollars go to work, and that ultimately will help the U.S. and Social Security's trust fund. But again, according to experts, this is going to be painful in the short term. When I say short term, I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but based off all the reports and all the stories and everything that I have read and seen, the temporary, okay, when they say temporary, they're talking about 6 months to a year, but based off what I'm seeing, it's going to be closer to 2 to 3 years of pain for the Social Security Trust Fund. Social Security recipients will not feel any of this pain, but it's going to push the insolvency date closer, meaning the Trump administration or whatever administration's next is going to have to handle this, figure it out before it's too late, where millions and millions of people receive a 22% cut instantly. So, all we know right now is, yes, all these changes that President Trump is making, that Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency are making, that private companies are making, every single change that's being made is impacting Social Security potentially negatively or positively. But experts believe that it will all be positive in the near future. So, as we get more information on this, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates. But that's what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.